Welcome to Practical Witch Talk. My name is Friday Gladhart, and I'm your host. Today we're going to be talking about scams, cons, and frauds. And I first want to talk about a weird email exchange I got. I'm ordained and have been since, I think, 89 or 87, somewhere around there. Anyway, it was one of those mail-in things before the internet, but I took my ordination very seriously. So when I do hand fastings or weddings, I usually meet with a couple. We talk about what they're interested in, if they want to exchange vows, or if they want to write their own vows, and what the ceremony is going to look like. If it's going to be Christian to the rest of the community, and we're kind of under disguise as hand fasting, if it's going to be fairly non-denominational, etc. But one of the websites where I'm registered has an email form where you can contact one of the ministers in order to find somebody to do your hand fasting ceremony, to officiate for your wedding. All right. So I'm going to skip all the back and forth emails, but I do want to tell you that I normally meet with a couple, like I said before, and I usually at least talk to them. Now, this wedding was right by my home, which is great, so it wouldn't cost them very much. There's no $50 in gas and transportation to drive 300 miles out of the way. It's just a quick $50 to $100, and if they can't afford that, then hey, a slice of the cake if you got one. But we got down to the point where I was feeling a lot of trepidation. Like some of the language was kind of broken, but here in some rural areas of the South, not everyone has a really polished education. You know, the language, especially in writing, doesn't always come off great. But the broken language made me think that maybe this person didn't speak English as their first language, which would be very unusual in my area. That's a fine though. But then I was starting to get just a couple of red flags here and there. And I finally said, hey, it is going to be $100, kind of hoping to see, test the water, see what's going on. And here's the reply I got through email. A check sent out to you issued by my guardian included the fee for the officiant, which is yours, and photography service as well. Okay, let's back up here for a second. I don't officiate for weddings where you need a guardian. There's legal documentation for you to get married if you need a guardian to sign papers and to deal with your finances. So there's red flag number one. This is the first time I've heard about any guardian. So let me go back. The check issued by my guardian include the fee for the officiant, the fee for the officiant, which is yours, and photography service as well, which was stated to be entrusted to the officiant who bailed out initially due to family attention. We will want you to deduct your money as soon as you cash the check at your bank and help send the rest to the photographer, whom information will be given to you in the subsequent email. Now, notice how they're using long words, but also broken language and incorrect grammar. This is weird in so many ways. Okay, subsequent email. As we have come across another photographer to work with us, we are sorry for the inconvenience this might cause. We are offering you extra $30 in other to carry out this errand. Not in order to, just in other. It sounds very AI generated. It's weird. We will urge you to keep us informed as soon as you get the check, which will be delivered to your address any moment from now, and deposit the check straight with your bank upon arrival. So my response was just, I'm not comfortable with this at all. This entire process has been out of the ordinary. I normally consult a week or two ahead of the ceremony in person. It is at this time that I'm normally paid in cash, and I'm afraid I have pretty bad feelings about all of this. And with the personal check, the confusion with payments, the guardianship, and all of this combined, things are just too weird for me. Now, I'll also note that because this was a local and I live in a very conservative Christian area, I have to watch out for my own safety. So one of the first things I do is a background check to see if this person is possibly a Christian nationalist or an evangelical that's trying to trap me on their property and, burn the witch. So I did, of course, a property record search through the tax assessor just to see who owned the property. It didn't match the name on the email. I did a search for anybody in the county. There's only about 900, almost 1,000 people in the entire county. So I searched for people in the county with his name, nothing. With his partner's name, which, by the way, I had to ask 6 times to get the wife's name, the wife-to-be. No record of any of them. And they were it's not like they were immigrants. They were just local names. They had picked out of nowhere. Anyway, that was pretty weird. So if you are an ordained officiant and you're listed on any websites, please keep an eye out. There are some scams going on here with weird, I'm going to pay you with a check. Like, I don't take checks. Who takes checks? Who uses checks now? I'm going to pay you with a check and then you're going to give me money back. Yeah, I don't think so. It's like, oh, pay me with a gift card. Anyway, so this brings us to the primary aspect of this podcast, which is talking about all different kinds of con artists, but specifically fraudulent psychic tactics. Understanding fraudulent psychic tactics is crucial for both practitioners and readers and clients in order to maintain integrity in the metaphysical community. So this is my first extended podcast because it's a very comprehensive guide that I've created to identify common manipulation strategies used by cons. And this episode aims to help practitioners and clients navigate the psychic industry with integrity and awareness. And in the Psychics and Cards episode, I briefly mentioned the purse curse, where a con artist tells you that some valuable item is cursed and they'll have to destroy or cleanse it to rid you of the dark energy. And that's a common thing, dark energy. Remember that. This cleansing of this object usually happens at pawn shops, and the scam is a variation of the curse scam, where the psychic says that you're cursed or hexed and then offers to remove that curse for money. This is the oldest scam in the book and remains the most prevalent. At a time when people are vulnerable, scared, and desperate for a solution, this con is running rampant online and in our communities. A genuine and ethical psychic is never going to use fear to sell a service. So this scam uses fear-based manipulation, the first of 8 different categories. But it uses fear-based manipulation and several classic cold reading techniques that are designed to pressure the client into spending money. I have sorted the various types of frauds that I have encountered over the last 40 years in the psychic industry into 8 categories. And remember, I used to work with the National, I can't say the name, but now that the gag order is removed, I worked for many, many years as the vice president of one of those 900 psychic lines. So I have experience with thousands and thousands, more than 10,000 psychics and hundreds of thousands of readings. So I've listened in on readings. I have been practicing readings for 40 years. It's just, I have a lot of experience in here. So carry on with me. Number 1 is fear-based manipulation. Then you have financial exploitation. Number 3 is victimization and external blame. Then Barnum statements, phishing, flattery, creative curiosity, and providing comfort. I'm going to go a deep dive into each of these. I don't have a script, but I have kind of a rough outline of all of these things. So if you're hearing paper turn, it's because I'm trying to stay on track. This is going to be a really long episode, and I don't want it to take more time than necessary. Let's take a deep dive into the techniques, how they're used to con clients, and how to differentiate the genuine gifts from deception. It's important to note that not all of these techniques are immediate red flags. So please, some may be simply yellow or orange. However, when you notice multiple questionable techniques being used in a single reading, those warning signs become more concerning. If you suspect fraud, address it directly if you feel safe doing so. When reporting fraudulent behavior to authorities, proceed with caution. We live in a time where any excuse to suppress those who are different can lead to laws and crackdowns that may unjustly target legitimate, gifted psychics and readers and spiritual practitioners. So let's take a deeper dive into the fear-based manipulation. That, of course, the purse curse and other curses are a big part of this. So these tactics, they exploit the client's fear to create a dependency and urgency. You want to get that client coming back in, spending $50 to $100 or more dollars regularly. And they often lead to financial exploitation. So first, remember that dark energy? The dark energy scare tactic is probably the most common thing I see. You go into a psychic and they say, I see dark energy around you and it's blocking your happiness or it's blocking your prosperity, or I see a curse or hex. Those two are really related. The generational curse trick. This curse has been in your family for generations, which is why you struggle. It's an ancestral curse. Then we have the bad luck attachment warning. This isn't a coincidence. Something is pulling you back. It's not a coincidence that all of these things are going wrong in your life. It's something externally. Remember that. Not internally. Not something they're doing. Not because they're getting involved with the same toxic relationship, just with a different name in their partner. it's external. They can blame it. They're giving them a scapegoat. So they're offering that service. So it's not a coincidence. Something's pulling you back. This, all of these fear-based manipulation techniques tend to rely on urgency and pressure. That's a strategy, the urgency pressure strategy. So if you don't act now, things will get worse. They tend to have jolting negatives. Be careful of betrayal. Someone is not what they seem. People around you are negative. Someone in your friend group is not what they seem. Somebody that you know that's a practitioner is a witch that cursed you. And then another urgency pressure is the time is running out. If you don't act soon, you're going to miss this opportunity. You're going to miss the ability because the planets are aligned in a certain way. So again, the urgency pressure and the time is running out urgency, those are all very closely related. Some more examples are there's a dark spirit attached to you. I need $5,000 to remove it. If you don't do this ritual, your family could face tragedy, and I can provide you all of the ingredients for the ritual, but it's going to cost $500. Or only I can protect you from this hex. I ran across this a lot on the psychic line. One person was telling people that they couldn't remove the hex themselves, which is what I tell people. I try to empower people. So if I sense negative energy around a person, I instruct them, according to their spiritual beliefs, how to best counteract that energy. If a reader or somebody says only they can remove it, ask them why. I've heard all kinds of stories about this. One person, this guy was saying, well, doing any kind of magic is evil and demonic and satanic. So I'm going to take that for you. I'm the martyr here. I'm going to do the evil deed so that you can be happy. Like BS. Oh my God. That's wrong on so many levels. And I don't want to do the deep dive into that because we'll run out of time. So that was the fear-based manipulation. So the next one is financial exploitation. And these scams involve selling overpriced, unnecessary services. You can see how it's related to the first one. And by exploiting that fear or hope, both a fear-based manipulation or hope-based, which we'll get into in a minute. So the expensive solution con for $300, you do a special cleansing ritual. The false hope loop is the first cleansing worked, but negativity lingers and you're going to need another session, but this session will do it. However, this session, we're going to have to take out the big guns and it's going to be $500. So they know they already got you for $3. They're going to get you again for $5. And sometimes this will even go further and further. I talked to one lady in New York who had been scammed out of 10 grand. And this whole ritual procedure was what was done to her. And I think that was 2019, somewhere around there. So the personalized ritual trick, this is another reason you can't do it yourself. I need to prepare a one-of-a-kind potion that's just for you, using rare ingredients that are very hard to obtain. And then the partial lift scam, I've weakened the curse, but you need to complete the next step. And that next step usually involves sending the client on a wild goose chase, getting a whole bunch of very expensive ingredients, specifically like silver coins, silver bullion, bringing them back to the practitioner or to the con in order to have them use those in a spell. Again, it's to use them to deposit money into their bank. Then the blessed item upsell. So you're doing really well, but your throat chakra is blocked. This has come up at least once a year for the last 10 years. Okay, the blessed item upsell. Your throat chakra is really blocked. It's almost always the throat chakra, isn't it? So your throat chakra is really blocked. You're having a hard time setting boundaries. You're having a hard time expressing yourself and tapping into your creativity and standing your ground. However, I have blessed this special crystal, particularly Reiki, and I'm going to talk about how Reiki is really cool stuff, but it's also a multi-level marketing scam, but that's another episode. So, yeah, I know, I've just raised everyone's hackles and put everybody on prickly alert, but just bear with me. So the blessed item upsell, this crystal is going to open up your throat chakra. It's going to protect you. That's fine. If they have added energy to the crystal, to the stone, to the talisman, to the amulet, etc., but it shouldn't be significantly more than the item would cost. And if the item is expensive, let's say it's a genuine faceted aquamarine 10 by 20 millimeters, it's going to be kind of costly. Ask them if they could bless something else that's a little more affordable, maybe a turquoise. That'd be really good for the throat chakra, or lapis. If you really like the piece and it's expensive, but it's equal to the price it would cost elsewhere, yeah, go for it. I really don't feel comfortable charging money for energy, but I do understand that culturally that's mine. And there are cultures where energy work is paid for. And I obviously do readings for money, and that's energy work. But adding my magic, blessing, cursing, that kind of thing, I just don't feel comfortable doing that for money. People who do, though, and who do it legitimately, they tend not to charge that much. A little more than minimum wage, but a general blessed item shouldn't cost more than $10 to have an item blessed. And if they're going to charge you more, hey, bring it down to me, when I'm at work and I'll bless it for you for free. Or hey, if you bring me a large Diet Cola, it's my weakness and I'm trying not to do it. But if you bring me one of those, I'll do it for free or in exchange for the cola. Anyway, so more examples. You need this $200 candle to break the curse, or buying this amulet. It's going to bring you wealth and love, etc. The next one is victimization and external blame. So these tactics take the client and they make you feel helpless, like a victim. And this is, again, a good way to scapegoat, like it's not your fault. That's one of the hooks. So needing the psychic's help to resolve these external forces or curses, it's not your fault. A jealous person places curse on you. You usually hear the troubled soul statement. You feel like people don't always see the real you. You are an old soul and you have deep and complex facets. Yeah, so there's that backhanded compliment / you're the victim, you're special. The unfinished business hook. There's something that they didn't get to tell you before they passed. Now, that one bugs me a lot. The unfinished business hook is often used by unscrupulous mediums, and honestly, there are some talented and legitimate mediums out there. That said, half of all of the mediums that I have ever met, encountered, worked with, worked for, or had worked for me, half of them are either frauds, mentally unstable, or don't understand their gift and where the messages are coming from. So mediumship is a slippery slope, a very slippery slope. There is very little way to verify what they're saying came from the person who's passed on. Testing them and asking them, well, what was her favorite color? That kind of thing doesn't work for legitimate psychics. Why would it? A fraud would have more likely of a chance because oftentimes they'll do background research. So the unfinished business hook really bugs me, that they didn't get to tell you something before they passed. The childhood trauma, guess. There was something difficult about your childhood. Not only is that very general, and we're going to go into Barnum statements here in a second, but nearly everyone has some situation in their childhood that caused them some trauma. More examples are your bad luck is because of a past life sin. That one has only come up a few times over the years, but when it comes up, it's usually a deep hook. You have to cleanse your past life, cleanse the sins of your past life. And it's very strongly related to the ancestral curse. It's not you, it was your ancestors, but you have to pay the price. And that goes back to the biblical the sins of the father kind of BS. Then someone's envious of you and causing this negativity. And as most of you know, the malolocchio, the evil eye, that kind of thing is very common in many, many cultures around the world and throughout history. But, was saying that this particular person or someone is envious of you, someone's always going to be envious of you. Almost always. Somebody wants something that you have. And it's usually not malicious, which is why we have evil eye charms. Even when it's not malicious, they might be sending a little negative energy, but it's minor. This is some minor stuff. This is like, oh, I got a little dust on the desk. I need to dust it off. You don't need a giant sandblaster to redo and refinish the desk. Okay. So the bulk of this podcast is about Barnum statements. These are vague and universal statements. The term Barnum effect and Barnum statements is named after P.T. Barnum, that famous 19th century showman, the founder of the Barnum and Bailey Circus. He is known for his ability to captivate audiences. He was very extravagant and had a lot of deceptive attractions. He famously said, "There's a sucker born every minute." That's where that comes from. And that highlights his understanding of human psychology and gullibility. Psychologist Paul Meehl coined the term Barnum effect in the 1950s, drawing on Barnum's legacy of offering something for everyone. In psychology, the Barnum effect refers to the phenomenon where people believe Vague general statements like those in horoscopes and psychic readings are highly accurate and personally meaningful. These Barnum statements work because they tap into common human experiences and desires and give them the illusion of personal insight. Now, we're going to really dive deep into this because this is a tricky area where it's difficult to differentiate between the Barnum effect and legitimate readings, particularly readings that involve archetypal images used in the tarot. So, Barnum effect tactics work by exploiting human psychology, generalizing common experiences, and subtly prompting clients to provide actual details. The fishing. A skilled cold reader can make it seem very personal and very profound when it is really just a mix of guesswork and suggestion. The Barnum statement is a generic statement that applies to most people. These statements are designed to make the client feel seen, but they're based on broad statements, psychological cues, rather than genuine insight. A genuine ethical reader avoids these manipulations and focuses on more meaningful or more specific insights. Like you sometimes feel confident, but other times you doubt yourself. Who doesn't have that? The rainbow ruse is one of the different Barnum effects. You are kind, but have a temper when crossed. The vivid childhood memory guess. There's a memory that feels so clear like it just happened. Those are called flashbulb memories. We all have a few of them. The relationship doubt seed. Everybody doubts their relationship. This is an easy in for the Barnum effect. Someone in your life isn't being completely honest with you. Like, no duh. If you've listened to the NPR broadcast, I think it was about 3 years ago, about lying, we all lie. Everyone lies. And everyone has worries about relationships. So this is an easy seed to plant, and then you just give it a little water with some other examples, and pretty soon you've hooked them deep. Some more examples are you've experienced a loss, but you're strong. There's a change in your life coming, but trust the process. Good one for horoscopes. I wrote this one as a cold reading. As a Sagittarian, you crave adventure and freedom. But there are times when you also enjoy the comfort of home and familiar surroundings. You feel a strong desire for truth and wisdom, yet you sometimes find yourself questioning your own beliefs. You're generally optimistic, but you have moments of doubt and introspection, especially when things don't go as planned. That uses broad, universal statements, such as the balance between adventure and comfort, optimism and doubt, and it could apply to almost anyone. It gives the impression of being specific to Sagittarius, but remains vague enough that it will resonate with a wide audience. You could say the same thing about Virgos. You could say the same thing about Aquarius. Another one for tarot readers. I wrote this one. Actually, this was partly copied from a reader that I had to let go. The cards show me you've been feeling a mix of emotions lately. We've all seen Inside Out, right? Emotions get mixed. While you often present a strong, resilient exterior, there are moments when you feel vulnerable and unsure. You're someone who gives a lot to others, but sometimes, just sometimes, you wish that people would give back to you with the same level of care. You've been seeking clarity on a particular issue, and while progress has been made, there's still a sense of uncertainty lingering. Now let's go back to the part where you've been giving and giving to others, but you need your own self-care. There's a combination of tarot cards, especially the Strength card and the Five of Swords, that will come up that in certain positions of a layout, upright and reversed, can mean the same thing. So again, it's not one single situation that's a red flag, not one single cue here, not one single thing on this list. It's when they're starting to use a combination that you have to start to really pay attention. The next one, we're going to leave the Barnum effect back and go into fishing for information and cold readings. And everyone hears about cold readings, but you might not realize that you have been in a cold reading. The fishing involves observing the client's reactions and using guesses to appear psychic. One is the shotgun approach. I see a father figure, maybe a dad, grandpa, or uncle with heart or lung issues. Now, shotgun approach, you have to be careful. I used to work on a psychic line, as I've said, and it was $6.99 a minute. So I got very, very, very good at doing a complete full tarot reading as quickly as possible. I also tend to talk rather quickly. And I will throw a lot of information out very, very quickly. And oftentimes I ask people to record their session, or people will record the session. One of the red flags you might notice is if a psychic says, no, you cannot record a session. That really worries me. There was a long time where it really made me uncomfortable, felt very on the spot. It made me very nervous. So it's hard for me to allow recordings, but I did anyway because you need to go back and remember this stuff. I prefer if people take notes, but hey, be careful with a shotgun approach. It could be somebody just giving you a lot. Like I might say, I see a father figure, a person who's in a position of authority, maybe a dad, grandpa, or an uncle, just like the shotgun approach, with heart or lung issues. Now, that I would say health issues if I weren't sure. If I'm getting a lot of things, like for me, sometimes the Three of Swords will be heart. I try to get really specific. Then, more fishing for information techniques would be I sense you've been through a tough time recently. Does that make sense? There are times in a reading where you might ask them if it makes sense, but clearly that's fishing. Like, I might tell them a whole bunch of information and say, "Are you with me so far?" Not fishing, just making sure they understand the information I've provided. Then the name game. Okay, this one's my favorite. I'm getting a name that starts with an M or a J, or someone with a J name is important to your story. The most common first initials of names in the United States are M and J, and it is extremely likely that someone with M or J as their first initial is in everyone's life. So this is just now, if they said, I think I see someone like Brian or Byron, clearly they're getting a sense. Those two names are kind of related. Byron's not very common. And obviously, like for me, psychically even, I tend to alphabetize. So it's like Mike or Mark, although I would never say that because those are too common and I think that the client might believe I'm fishing. But if I'm getting something more like Margaret or Morgan, it might be a little more specific, but these are yellow and orange flags, not necessarily red flags. If you're using the shotgun approach and the name game, it's still not quite a red flag. You just have to notice how you feel. That's probably the most important thing. If you go in expecting a fraud, obviously you're going to read too much into things. But if you go in with an open mind and ready to hear whatever the psychic is giving you, pay attention to your feelings. And if your feelings are saying, hey, something's not right. Also, when you're looking at how you feel about it, hey, if you were raised Christian and you have a lot of religious trauma and you're going to a psychic who's clearly not a Christian, obviously some of their tools and trappings are going to make you feel uncomfortable. If it's your first time or even second or third time ever doing a psychic reading, obviously you're going to feel uncomfortable. If the psychic has unnerving uh, eyes when they look at you, a lot of psychics have weird eyes. I don't know. It's a thing. Obviously, you're going to feel a little odd, but really follow your gut instinct. Your solar plexus, your heart. Are you feeling like someone's trying to control you or motivate you or manipulate you to do something or to pay more or to come back for another reading? When I see, like, I'll look ahead into the future at the most likely outcome if things continue as they have been. Now, as you get 6 months or a year out, that might get a little less accurate. And in a, let's say in a tarot reading last week, it looked like things could have easily gone one of two ways, but was most likely going to go this direction. And I explained that to the client. But I also told him there is a possibility of your nephew doing this. And if you're sensing that that's starting, come back and we'll throw some cards about it. In 6 months to a year. Not like tomorrow, next week, every week. That's not okay. The next one is flattery and validation. These make the client feel special, validated. They make you build trust with your psychic, and they encourage dependency. Again, that dependency. Everyone knows that if you, especially when you're a new reader and you get your first deck of cards, you may start to depend on the tarot too much. And you know how that can be a problem. You start relying on it for every decision, and finally you have to walk away. You have to set them down and step back for a while. But for psychics that are cons, they're trying to do that dependency on your reading for every move in their life. So the past life hook, we've mentioned a little bit, but here's another take on it. You were a healer or a wise person in past life. So the past life that really builds people up. This is very, very common. I was talking about this with a person who has recently done past life regression that was successful. And we were comparing and contrasting with most past life regression. You were a princess, you were a prince, you were a king, what if you were a drudgery maid? Nobody's ever like a slave. Everyone's always like a king or a prince. So that's part of the scam of flattery. Then the paranormal sensitivity gimmick. You have a natural psychic gift, but you're blocking it. And I will come up, the Queen of Cups, especially Queen of Cups reversed or the High Priestess. That is somebody who has a lot of natural gift often. It can also indicate somebody's very empathic. As with most tarot cards, it can indicate a whole lot of things. But when you're noticing a trend in a reading, again, the paranormal sensitivity gimmick isn't always a red flag. That might be just a yellow flag. So you have a natural psychic gift. You probably do, particularly if you're seeking out tarot or seeking out a psychic. You know that there's something else out there because you felt it yourself. But be careful if somebody's overly flattering you. Usually that gimmick is followed by a hook. So you have a natural psychic gift or you're very empathic. But here's the cure for, not taking on other people's emotions. And it's going to cost you so and so dollars. You might also get things like your aura is so unique and so powerful, or I see spirits over your left and right shoulders, and they're telling me all kinds of things, which they might be. We'll go into the mediumship and whatnot later. The most common one is the compliment gimmick of you're an empath, no wonder you feel so much. And I often compliment my clients. I'm looking at their entire life out in front of me. They've allowed me a glance into what I feel is an extremely intimate and private aspect of their lives. And of course, I'm going to compliment them. I'm amazed at how people survive life. I'm just amazed and astounded at the unique diversity and resourcefulness of humans. So I do often compliment. So again, this is not a red flag, but be careful if they're using it with other things, particularly the Barnum effect. The next one, 7, is we're almost done, so bear with me. I know we're a little over half an hour, but creating curiosity and suspicion. These tactics create intrigue and lead the client to seek further guidance, often paid guidance. So the big decision forewarning, you will soon face a big decision that you won't necessarily be able to trust your gut because it's so convoluted with all these different aspects of your life. So you'll have to come to me for this big decision. The next one is a secret will come to light. The prediction, something that is hidden will soon be revealed. Doesn't that sound fun? Pass some silver across my palm, and I shall tell your future long. A secret will come to light before the end of this very night. I don't know. I'm just making this up off the cuff. I'm sorry. So the secret will come to light. Many secrets come to light. Obviously, that's very common. A lot of things that you don't know today, you will know tomorrow. Another one is there's someone who isn't being honest with you. That goes back to a lot of other techniques. Whenever you hear somebody is evil, somebody is not being honest with you, somebody is working magic against you, those are really, I call those orange flags for sure. And many of them, you're getting into the red zone. You'll receive an important message soon. Now, that's a tricky one. This is the creating curiosity and suspicion. The important message, you get the Page of Pentacles in April, that's your tax return. Pages are messengers of the court. A lot of times they'll come up for a message. Many things in the tea leaf reading are indicative of messages being received. It's helpful if they can give you a specific topic. Yeah, you're going to get an important message soon. We all are. Within the next couple of months, you're going to get some sort of important message. If they can tell you specifically what it's about, you're going to get an important message from your significant other, from your mother and father, from your grandmother, and what it's about money or about your relationship, that kind of thing. Now, if it's about your relationship, you're going to get an important message. That is a little bit of a yellow flag there because it's leading into that uncertainty that often we have in relationships, and it can put that seed of doubt and cross over with that scam. Okay, number 8, finally, providing comfort and reassurance. These statements offer vague comfort without any specific insights. That's not necessarily even a red flag, but it's something that is used a lot in combination with other things. The someone is watching over you comfort statement. You have a guardian spirit, a guardian angel, an ancestor, spirit guide, whatever, watching over you. I often get that. And sometimes it'll even come up in the tarot, in certain layouts and in certain positions with the 6 of Swords or the Temperance card. So it's not necessarily a red flag, but be careful if someone says someone's watching over you, particularly if they're a medium and they want to channel a message from that guardian angel, spirit, ancestor, whatever. I always approach that with a lot of trepidation. The dream visit claim. This is done a lot of times to females online by male psychics or male con artists. So a loved one has visited you in a dream recently, or I know you because I've dreamt of you before. Uh, the dream claim. Now, loved ones often visit us in our dreams. Very often, particularly if we have a lot on our minds about that loved one. If they have recently passed on, if you've recently been in an argument or you had a great evening with them, obviously your brain is going to recycle that up into your brains. So, into your brain. Some more examples of the comfort and reassurance. Your ancestors are proud of you. They might be, but it's a little bit of a yellow flag. The universe is guiding you towards your purpose. Again, not necessarily a red flag, but just be careful. As mentioned earlier, the use of a single technique could simply be a coincidence. Many astrological traits, tarot cards, and palm lines have very general meanings that naturally apply to a wide range of people, especially the tarot cards that draw on universal archetypes. However, the con artist rarely relies on just one technique. Instead, they combine multiple methods to strengthen their deception, as demonstrated in the example I have written for you here. This is a fraudulent reading for a widow. In this scenario, the psychic fraud, uses tarot cards, mediumship, palm readings, and a lot of cold reading techniques to manipulate this grieving widow. And the psychic starts with a cold reading, asking, I sense you've lost someone dear recently, a man perhaps. Notice the fishing. When the widow confirms, the psychic draws tarot cards showing grief and change. Notice the potential stacking of the deck. Now, I am not skilled enough to do that, but a lot of con artists are. If they can do 3-card Monty, they can stack a tarot deck. So they draw the 5 of Cups and the Death card and interpret them as a message from the deceased spouse. He says he's at peace but worried about you. He keeps showing me paperwork, something financial. Is there something unsettled? Okay, again, we're fishing, but also we're using common aspects of somebody passing away. There's always paperwork when somebody passes. Always. So, of course, there's paperwork. Clearly, this psychic is fishing for important paperwork about inheritance, settlements, bank accounts, that kind of thing. So, again, there's always paperwork after death. And through these fishing techniques, the psychic discovers a life insurance policy and hones in for the grab using fear-based manipulation. Now, we're going from fishing to fear. I see a block in the energy around this money. If it's not properly blessed, it could bring hardship. I can help, but it does require a costly ritual. There we go again with the curse. It's another curse scam. The psychic continues by offering a mediumship experience, pretending to channel the deceased husband, who supposedly urges the widow to trust the psychic and follow her guidance. The palm reading adds another layer of validation. Your lifeline shows a recent loss, but also a dangerous path ahead if this energy is not cleared. Again, we're bringing that fear in. The psychic exploits the widow emotionally, and the widow's emotionally vulnerable. So to gain access to the life insurance money, he's going to keep exploiting that. By combining these methods, the psychic plants fear, offers a false solution, and aims to extract money out of the guise of spiritual help. A legit tarot reading, or a tarot reading done with integrity. The reader might begin with, I want to start by saying how truly sorry I am for your loss. Grieving is incredibly difficult and it's a long journey, and my intention today is to offer you comfort and support. Everything we explore together through the tarot today is meant to uplift you, and you are always in control of this experience. Now note, they're providing the client with control. You are not in control, the client is in control. That's a big difference between a con and a proper reader. A proper reader provides you power and control. The con takes your control and power away, gives you a scapegoat, gives you a solution, a costly solution to fix your problems. The psychic shuffles the tarot cards and draws the Star, hope and healing, the Hermit, introspection, and the Ten of Swords, the acknowledgement of pain and an end of suffering. The Ten of Swords is the one with all the swords stabbed in her back. And it might say something like, the cards show that you've been through a tremendous amount of pain. But there's also a glimmer of new hope here. The Star suggests healing is possible, even if it feels far away right now. The Hermit encourages you to take time to process and reflect. You don't have to rush. It's okay to honor your grief. This position in the tarot layout is for messages from your husband. So I'm going to turn over these 2 cards. If there are any messages that I feel coming from these cards, I will let you know. This is actually a real example that I had. The Six of Cups and the Four of Swords are both reversed here. The Six of Cups may indicate that you are overly focused on the bad memories, replaying them the last moments over and over in your head. These moments indicated by the Four of Swords were probably a trip to the hospital or the time when he was in his sickbed, laying repose in a church, a time that he was ailing. And I think you're replaying those last moments over and over and fixating on that, which was really a brief fragment of time. So the message is to try to focus on the good memories. Like that Six of Cups right side up is a lot of times nostalgia and fond memories. So try to focus on those. Try to turn that card around to help offset the bad few hours that were very traumatic at the end of your time together in life. Now, if you were a medium, a good medium, the widow might ask about connecting with her late spouse. You would remain gentle and honest. Sometimes when loved ones, this is what a medium might say if they had integrity. Sometimes when a loved one has crossed over, they show up in subtle ways through dreams, fragrances, feelings, or signs that are meaningful to you. If I sense anything specific, I'll share it, but I also encourage you to trust your own experience. Notice how she's putting power in the client. Trust your own experience. You know that connection better than anyone. Specific promises or pushing for paid follow-up sessions can be very red flags, or at least orange. A legit medium might say, I'm getting a sense of peace, a feeling that he wants you to know it's okay to move forward at your own pace. There's no rush. He understands your grief. If you had a palm reader, they might be examining the widow's palm. The psychic keeps interpretations honest and grounded. Your lifeline shows strength and resilience. You've been through a lot, but I can also see potential for healing and new beginnings. It's important to focus on self-care and allow yourself moments of joy when they come. Although that is very general, it's also very good advice. And I'm not specifically a palm reader. I used to do them for free drinks at a gay bar back in the 80s. But, I think I'm good at them, but I'm not great at them. So I stick to tarot because, well, I'm great at it. So if you were providing practical guidance and empowerment, this is what a legitimate psychic might offer as additional support without manipulation. They might say, if you feel drawn to it, journaling or spending time in nature could help bring some peace. And if you're feeling overwhelmed, speaking with a counselor or joining a support group can make a huge difference. Spiritually and practical support can work beautifully together, spirituality and practical support. But also, the psychic should be setting boundaries and letting the client know what these boundaries are. For example, I will never tell you to do anything that feels uncomfortable, and I won't ask for anything beyond what we've agreed to for today's session. If you'd like more support in the future, I'm here, but there's no obligation. And I usually say something like that if they're asking, hey, can I come back next week? I usually discourage that. There's not a need to get a professional psychic reading more than once a month unless you have a whole lot going on. I mean, a lot. And you're not looking to your psychic for reassurance and to hold your hand and to offer emotional support. That's what friends are for. And if you don't have friends, you don't need to pay a psychic to be your friend. You need to go out and find some friends. So I know I'm a little harsh there, but let's close out this example integrity reading with, you close it with compassion. This person has lost their other half. They're a huge part of their daily thoughts and activities and behavior is gone. And it is traumatic and it is impossibly difficult to get through and extraordinary that anybody does. So you might say, thank you for sharing this time with me. And I hope you found some comfort today. And remember to be gentle with yourself. You're doing the best you can. And that is enough. So that example demonstrates how a psychic can provide comfort and insight while maintaining ethical standards, transparency, and respect for the client's emotional and financial boundaries, while empowering the client to do something to improve their lives and improve their psychology. So I hope that this helped. It has been the longest podcast I've ever done, and I am not going back over and over to remove every sigh and every and so. And it's probably a little sloppy. I know it's a little sloppy, but the content is out there. And it has been a while since I've posted a podcast, so if you want more of them, they're going to be a little messy. but there's going to be more of them. So if you want content, you get, that you can have it fast or you can have it good, that kind of thing. We're at the same Venn diagram of you can have a lot of content or you can have polished professional content, and I'm trying to meet somewhere in between. But that's it for today, folks. Blessed be.